Oh, hey, Steve.
Oh, hey, Mike.
Well, what's wrong, buddy?
Well, I just got this new water bottle, but it just looks so plain.
Well, have I got the store for you. Introducing the Wild Edible World Podcast Merch Store.
Wowie wow!
It's the merch store where you can get all of your favorite podcasts merch for all your decorating purposes.
How do I find that?
Go to wildedibleworldpod.shopify.com or go to any of our Instagram and media accounts and view the link in the bio.
Wowie wow!
Welcome to another wonderful episode of the Wild Edible World podcast. I'm just one of your hosts, Michael.
And it's Steve here, of course. And we got one of our buds here with us today.
Yeah, please welcome friend of the pod and general life student,
Amigo extraordinaire,
Luke Oswald of the Publicly Challenged podcast. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks exciting.
Yeah, we're using all of Luke's equipment right now. So
well, partially. It's a conglomerate, really.
Yeah, it's
like testing out these handy-dandy microphones and headsets. So it's feeling pretty good. I hope we sound good.
Yeah, it sounds wonderful. I don't have to worry about talking into my clown nose here.
Yeah.
That was always my biggest problem. Is I get it animated sometimes, and then I move away from the mic, and then a headset's just a way to keep it all there and it's consistent. So.
This should be a pretty good podcast because not only for myself, but for the listeners, I don't know shit about you. Other than you brought me coffee and it smells fucking lovely.
Yeah, ever the wonderful guest and I'm sure equally wonderful host, you gifted us some deliciously smelling self-roasted coffee.
Yes, yeah.
And you do all sorts of stuff yourself. You've gifted me a couple other things, one of them being soap. And you hunted a boar recently with some friends earlier.
Yeah.
So okay, let's start at the beginning. Let's move it back a little bit and let's talk about your podcast. How a lot of I think our listeners might be familiar with you if they are, and otherwise. What is your show about?
So I am Luke Oswald, like you said, host of Publicly Challenged podcast, and it all started 3 years ago. And it was my quest for knowledge to become a better hunter, angler, and forager. And that journey has taken me down a road that I never would have thought I would ever go down. But I have loved every single minute of it. I love talking to everybody and just learning. And like you said, eternal student of life, and it's never ending. And the more I learn, the less I know. So it's been wonderful, though. But like you said, it's soap making, everything. I want to learn it all, those lost skills that were once a way of life that now aren't, but combine it with some of the modern stuff too. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff out there. Why not utilize it? So yeah, I hunt, I fish, I forage. My foraging journey pretty much started when I started the podcast. So pretty fresh to it. And even then I kind of just dipped a pinky toe in there. Yeah. I didn't really get really serious into it until maybe about 1.5 years ago.
Awesome. Wow. Yeah.
I love that. I love that sentence. The more I learn, the less I know, and because it's so true.
Oh
man.
yeah.
How many rabbit holes do you dive down? Even just researching simple, every day, every day for us, forage ingredients. It's insane.
Truly.
It's absolutely insane.
Truly. And you develop your own products, too. So you've developed a couple hunting stand products and stuff, clips. And
so for the mobile hunter that utilizes climbing sticks and stuff like that, stuff to where you can't have a permanent tree stand, which is most public land, and that's the majority of everything I do is public land. I had a necessity for a product where I didn't like putting stuff and hanging it on my saddle when I would climb the tree. And so I just wanted a better way to do that. Now, I'm not saying you can't use it for that because it's a clip, right? You can clip it anywhere. But I wanted it to where it was rigid enough to where I could put it on molly webbing on a backpack, have it right there. I could reach back, pull it off, and stick it to the tree for a climbing stick. And so, I developed that product as well as a clip for a hunting platform that you hang on the tree as well. And there's a few other things in the works, but it's a matter of just kind of rolling them out and finances and whatnot. Just doing it at a pace where it's actually sustainable versus just bankrupting myself trying to do it.
Hey, let's just get everything right now.
Absolutely. But the cool thing is that you have the creativity, you have the ingenuity, too, to create these new products still to something that has been going, an activity we've been doing ever since we were hominid, like hunting. Yeah. And, it's really cool that you can come up with, that there's still some new ideas out there. So even though I'm not an active hunter right now, and I do seek to learn that information. I will. You will be. But, I find that incredibly admirable that you when you stick to your creativity like you do, and you got all your T-shirts are awesome, your stickers are hilarious, pickin' fatties, and what was the swamp donkey
chicken winter chicken dinner, chicken of the woods on a big stump.
Yeah, excellent designs. And
a lot of them.
You do all those yourself too, right?
I do not design them myself.
Okay.
Most of them I come up with a rough design, and I send them to a friend that's a graphic designer, and he does a wonderful, wonderful job. But there was one or two that I did, and I just sent it to him, and he's like, man, I'm not even going to charge you the price to draw it up. He's like, I'll just refine it for you because it's pretty close.
That's nice.
So I'm just trying, learning, and through even the podcast, I've started to pick up photography and learn that, and filming, editing video now. It just goes on and on, right?
Yeah, we're about to be there.
Yeah. A long time ago, I started knife making. And when I started blacksmithing and making my own knives, I had a necessity for sheaths all of a sudden because you can't just walk around with all these blades, right? So I went from making sheaths, and I started looking, and I was like, I got a couple pistols. Maybe I want to, make a holster for them. And then next thing you know, your leather working transpires into that. And then my buddy got me into traditional archery, and I did that for about 2 years. And when I did that, I started making all my own hunting gear because it was just cooler than going out and buying something. Plus, at the time, I really didn't have money. There's a lot of things to where you either have time or money. You don't really have both.
Yep.
Sure. And I had the time, didn't have all the money to go buy a lot of the gear, so I made a lot of arm guards, and I made my own quiver, which was pretty cool. There's a brand called Safari Tough, and it goes on your back, and it's got an opening in the bottom, and you lift the arrow up, and you slide it down, and you can put it right on your string and draw back.
Knock it off.
And I was like, this is so cool. And it was made out of this rigid, I shouldn't say rigid, flexible plastic material, and it's covered in a soft felt fabric to where it's real quiet through the woods and everything. And I was like, man, I want one of them, but I can't spend $300 on that. So I went and bought some drain pipe at the hardware store, and it was real thin and kind of flexible anyway, and cut my holes in it and put a bottom in it and wrapped it in some soft fabric myself and made my own strap. And dude, I still use it when I play around with it. I don't hunt with it anymore, but yeah. I mean, just things like that. You got to adapt and improvise when you can.
Oh, that's awesome, and that's really inspiring, especially since a lot of our listeners maybe are new to foraging or hunting or anything along those lines. You don't have to dump all your resources into it. You can get creative.
Absolutely.
You can learn that way.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you're newer to foraging, right? How about hunting? Was that a new thing as well?
So no, I started big game hunting. So whitetail deer, of course, that's kind of the Midwest thing to do. I did that when I got a bow when I was 15 years old. My dad bought me a bow off a guy at work. And I started shooting it and shot it for about a whole year. And when I turned 16, me and my buddy were like, hey man, we should start hunting.
Yeah.
So then my parents had 5 acres, but it was in a subdivision that was undeveloped. So it was 86 acres of prime hunting ground. Jeez. At the time, I didn't know how great it really was. It was that good. And not knowing anything, I screwed it up a lot. But I learned. And so I hunted that for quite a few years. I think it was 4 years before I actually killed a deer. I didn't really have any mentors or anything either. The only thing I had was a buddy who his dad said, I'll go throw up. I got some extra tree stands. I'll throw them up for you. And these were old school, ladder stands that you probably couldn't even find the manufacturer anymore. Just that old. But he put up a couple in some really, really good spots that were on some heavily used trails. And I mean, we saw a lot of deer and had a lot of opportunities. And then finally one day it all came together, and after the first one, it was another one. And then, it was a double up. I took 2 deer in my first sit during the rut. Nice. And it was just awesome. That was my first buck and doe. It was a double up.
Wow.
And ever since then, I've been hooked.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I don't know if I would be as hooked if it would have came easy.
Sure.
Because there was so much struggle, it made it worth it in the end. And in this day and age, so much stuff is instant for gratification.
Sure.
That it doesn't, it's not always, the juice isn't always worth the squeeze.
Absolutely.
And like we struggled. So if the other day we went fishing, right?
Yeah.
And we struggled. And if we go out again and we catch a trout, it's going to taste that much better.
Yeah. And we still had fun, and the effort is still fun.
Yeah.
That's part of what I have fallen in love with foraging so much is that there is that you don't get any of the reward without some work. You got to put in the legs at some point.
Yeah.
And the reward is always sweeter, and that's probably why it always tastes better than grocery store food and stuff, and like just regular old lettuce,
Right.
So I'm sure that holds true with trout, and I'll find out whenever I catch it.
Hopefully we do, right?
So, do you remember like the first thing you ever foraged?
I do. It was actually a little kid on the playground.
Like a rock?
No, we were sitting there, and it was wood sorrel. Didn't know what it was at the time, but picking the yellow flowers, eating them, we knew they tasted like lemons, and you could eat it. And that was actually the first thing I ever foraged.
Nice.
Now,
Awesome.
since then, I remember when I was like 12, maybe, my dad got me the Army Field Manual on Survival.
Hell yeah.
And as a 12-year-old boy, formative years, that's one of the coolest books you can possibly get. And it's FM 2176, Field Manual 1976.
Oh, wow.
And that is a cool book for anybody listening that they want to give their kids something and like let them supervised, obviously do dangerous things carefully. That's a great book. I was probably a little unsupervised at times because some of the stuff, but I was really into like the fire making and the primitive skills, and I mean, I guess it really carried over today. But that book really, really made a difference in my life, and it was really cool. And so cattail shoots, I remember seeing those in that book. And probably 12, 13, we were at the beach at one of our beach clubs, kind of like you saw the other day. And we went there, and there was cattails growing there by the lake. And I cut one off and peeled off the outer layer and ate it. And that was about it, though. I can't think of anything else up until I actually started foraging for mushrooms. And then, of course, it was the morel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, and that was in my 20s. And me and a friend went out, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going morel hunting. You want to go?" And I was like, "Yes,
Duh.
yes, yeah." And so we went out and picked, and it was prime time, and we ended up getting like 4 grocery sacks each of like morels. Some of them were the size of beer cans, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, now I'm hooked."
Yeah.
You know, and then it was still only morels for a long time, and then it was actually hen of the woods. And, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm already out in the deer woods. I'm hunting. I'm in oaks. You know what I mean? It was just like, why am I not picking these? You know, once I knew what they were and they were edible. And then so from there, it just kind of started progressing a little more. And at that point, I started the podcast, and I was hunting public ground. There was a big transition from hunting private, you know, for, like I talked about the private ground that I had the opportunity to hunt, and slowly lost all of that. And lost other opportunities. And I was like, well, I guess I need to capitalize on all this public land around me. And I soon realized, though, there was a huge learning curve, right? No longer was it figuring out the animals and playing the wind and all these other things. It's figuring out humans.
Yeah, who else is here?
And the interaction with them, the animals' interaction with other humans, and playing upon that. And once I did that, the whole dynamic changed for me. Everything opened up, and all of a sudden my opportunities were target rich, I guess. And then I found myself sitting in a tree one day, and I was like, man, I've spent my whole life in the woods, yet I hardly know any of this around me, like what it really is. And it just kind of shocked me as I'm sitting there. And so then I started looking around, checking things with binoculars, and just checking out different mushrooms on stumps and stuff. And then I had a book, and it's a great book, and I can't think of the author's name, but maybe you guys know. It's Edible Mushrooms of Illinois and Surrounding States.
I want to say that's a man named Jay.
There's a guy that lived down in Southern Illinois. I think he's had some health problems since, but he was actually Steve McFarland or Joe McFarland and Stephen something, which is actually the chair of the Botanical Gardens in Chicago or something like that. But the two of those got together and they wrote a book, and it was an amazing, super simplistic book. And I had that, so I went home and started opening it up. And sure enough, one of the mushrooms I saw, but I was scared to pick it because I didn't know, and I didn't want to pick it if it was something that was poisonous.
Yeah,
and
they're all poisonous.
Didn't know enough of it, right? That you could handle all mushrooms, just don't eat them, consume them, right? And so
you can even put them in your mouth.
Yeah, right. And
just don't swallow.
Yeah, and so all of that kind of came into culmination, but I didn't do it, didn't pick it, went home and opened the book, and it was a lion's mane mushroom. And I was like, oh, man. And then I started reading, and I was like, oh, I'm allergic to shellfish, but wow, now I can eat this and have like some of the same flavor, right? And so that kind of fueled the fire a little bit more to really start studying those books. And at that point, I ordered some Sam Thayer books and really went to town on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But one of
Sigh.
What's wrong, buddy?
Well, I just realized this mushroom supplement I bought isn't actually made with mushrooms. It's made with something called myceliated grain?
Myceliated grain?
Oh, no!
I'm sorry to tell you, buddy, but myceliated grain is a sure sign of a poor quality mushroom supplement.
Well, dang. I wanted mushrooms, not brown rice. What should I do?
Well, you should support a small batch producer from right here in the Midwest. Keweenaw Apothecary.
Keweenaw Apothecary? Tell me more.
Keweenaw Apothecary specializes in high-quality mushroom extracts from Michigan, and they always use real mushrooms, never myceliated grain.
That sounds like exactly what I've been looking for. Where can I order?
Well, you can find them at keweenawapothecary.etsy.com. That's KEWEENAW apothecary.etsy.com. Be sure to read their many excellent reviews.
Thanks, buddy. I don't want no low-quality mushroom products from a factory. I want Keweenaw Apothecary.
Wowie wow!
One of the things that Sam Thayer said to me, which was kind of surprising, is he said, outdoorsmen or hunters tend to be some of the fastest learners as far as foragers because they're already spending so much time in the woods. Mm-hmm. They see all these plants. Mm-hmm. They just don't know what they are and haven't made the connection yet.
Absolutely.
But it's already there.
It's like it's basically already logged into your subconscious, and now you're just making the connections to be like, oh, that's what I've been seeing this whole time. It's like in your active vision, it's just kind of like becoming camouflage. It's like blends in with everything else.
Can't see the forest for all the trees.
Exactly.
Right?
But then you realize your subconscious has actually been really absorbing all of that and just kind of like filing little things away because that's what we've been built for this whole time.
Yes.
And we're just like kind of integrating it, reactivating it. So yeah, that kind of makes sense to me. That's really fun. When did you talk to him at the festival?
Yeah, when we were up there, we were sitting. Actually, maybe we were walking. I don't remember. We were walking and talking or something. But yeah, he said that because I told him, I said, yeah, I haven't been doing this that long, but I've noticed all these plants before. And he's like, oh, do you hunt? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, that's why.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it was cool. It was a good experience. I plan on going actually as soon as we're done with this podcast, getting some more tickets. They go on sale today.
Oh, they're already sold out?
No.
I'm sorry, they are. They sold out in 2 hours.
Okay. Well, whatever. Not going. That's fine.
I know.
Crashing the festival. We're doing it.
I mean, you can't. Bring Luke along, man.
Nah, it's all good.
No, unfortunately, it sold out way faster than it ever has in any other year. 2 years ago, you could wait until August to buy the tickets. Well, last year, it sold out in 2 weeks. This year, it sold out in 2 hours.
Hopefully, maybe I'll be in the Elkwoods then. I don't know. Colorado or something.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, got to find something
that's
to do.
That's September anyway. So, okay. Well, not doing that, but
sorry about that. Sorry.
I mean, that's awesome, though, right? That's great for all of us. I mean, that means people are getting out there, and they are.
Yeah, and part of the issue is they don't change their attendance limit. So I think they have an attendance max of 200 people.
Yeah,
and
that makes
they keep
sense,
it that
though.
way.
Yeah,
and they're not going to make it bigger because they are at capacity where they are.
Yeah,
and
that's a great venue to have it at.
It's
too.
a perfect.
Yeah.
It really is one of the best times I have every year. And I'm glad that they're not really changing it. That they're keeping the format, keeping it sweet and tight. You got Alan there, Alexis. It's going to be a big year, but alas. Got me started.
Not to rub it in or anything.
Not to rub it in.
Thanks,
not to rub
Michael.
it in. No, in a year or two, we'll have our own Chicago Wild Food Festival.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just have to have a publicly challenged festival.
Yeah,
that's what I'm
that'll
saying.
be and then it'll be not just that; it'll be primitive skills and hunting and whatever as well. So there you go.
Yeah.
We'll make it happen now.
I'm on board, man.
That's
I'm on
the
board.
inspiration.
So yeah,
Can't make it, or if you can't make it, you make it.
that's right. If you build it, they will come.
Bingo.
Right.
Let's just keep doing it.
So you hunt deer and what else? You're an angler. I know that. You were
Anything
talking
and
about-
everything I can,
Yeah?
honestly.
Squirrel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot. I'm not
Sure,
going to lie.
sure.
I should do more of it than I do. Obviously, you need a lot more of them to eat.
Sure.
Yeah, my family consumes quite a bit of meat. We go through about a half a cow and 2 deer a year, plus 35 chickens-ish
Yeah.
that we raise ourselves.
Sure. I'm a chicken tender myself.
Yeah, so I like it.
Yeah, buddy.
Chicken tender.
Chicken tender.
Yeah, I do that. Sometimes I do dove hunting. I like to do a lot of the stuff out west. It's just a matter of getting enough time
Sure.
throughout the year. Well, now that I have time, to definitely,
You certainly will.
definitely might try and pick up an over-the-counter tag for Colorado for elk this year.
Heck yeah.
We'll
man.
see. We'll see what
Oh, wow.
happens. Yeah,
Get some
elk hunting is hard, a lot harder for somebody that, especially from the Midwest. One, Midwesterners aren't as in shape as Westies are. And, obviously they're acclimated to the elevation, but it's a lot more physical. It's demanding. It's mentally strenuous. You have to be prepared to be out there, spend time, whether it's 6, 7, 10 days in the wilderness, living either out of your truck or a backpack. And it's awesome, though. I love it. It's a type 2 type of fun. It's that stuff that sucks in the moment, but afterwards the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't capitalized and killed one yet, but since I've been out, I've definitely honed my skills a lot more, and I'm very confident that at least I can come close to closing the deal.
That's exciting, man.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
We have a pal that's a guide out in Montana, and I mean, just being out there and seeing all the wildlife out there is just incredible. I can't imagine trying to take one of those sons of bitches down. I really can't, man. They're fucking huge.
Yeah.
The mule deer out there are fucking huge, so the
They're
elk
big.
are like gigantic.
Yeah.
Seriously.
With the bow, definitely with the bow.
Oh, yeah.
Most of my stuff is archery. Other than the boar hunt, that was actually spears, which was pretty interesting as
Yeah,
well.
that's terrifying. Fucking Game of Thrones shit right there.
It charged me, and I dispatched it, and it wasn't immediate, but very quickly.
Sure.
And it still tried to work its way up the spear, and it wanted to put me down. It was probably the closest thing to fighting an animal and having a fair, a actual match between the two of us.
Seriously.
And it was intense. It was an intense moment to know that animal had a fighting chance to either take me down or I was going to take it down.
For sure.
Yeah.
When was that?
Go out Baratheon
That was
style.
in March. We were down in Texas. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So, what's your favorite? What do you think is the tastiest game, or for you?
So a lot of people like to characterize things based upon domesticated things.
Sure.
Just like with, this tastes kind of like broccoli or asparagus, right? As far as like Sochan kind of has a little bit of an asparagus taste to it, right? But it's not. Everything is unique. Everything has its own flavors, and they all have their place and purpose. And we just got to figure out that balance and like meld them together. So I can't really answer that to your question because everything is special. Everything is unique, but like some type of stew with like squirrels and like add actual acorns into it or something like that. That's awesome, you know, or parsnips or some type of root vegetables and throw that in and make a stew with your own like homegrown tomatoes that you can.
All
just
you have to do is say
all
tomatoes.
that kind of stuff. Just everything is wonderful. It's just, you know, how you want to prepare it. And so I can't really answer that because I love food. I'm kind of a foodie.
That is an answer, though. That was an
that
answer.
is an
That was an excellent
For
fucking
sure.
answer.
I don't necessarily go to the extreme as far as like haute cuisine. You know, a lot of times it's just simplistic, but sometimes simplistic is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Did you try the boar bacon yet?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
No. That's probably going to be tomorrow morning's breakfast.
Okay. All right. Yeah, let me know.
I meant to do it this weekend, but yeah.
Yeah, that one was good. I liked that. And it made me want to go get some more loins just for that.
That's awesome.
Well, I think that's a really valid conversation, though, that point that you bring up when we only have so many. We don't really have the vernacular in America necessarily, or the culture even to have that kind of description. Even we don't have the words to describe things that aren't just like the 20 plants that you can find at the grocery store,
Right.
or the 4 different animals you can find at the grocery store, right? And there really is so much diversity out there. It's like whenever. When some languages don't have a word for a color or whatever, and it's like we are missing so much perception of how to taste and like how to describe that sort of flavor diversity. So I think that's a great point that you bring up, and I'm so glad that you find the depth of joy in it that you do. That it's not like, oh yeah, I like. I mean, I love that you didn't have an answer. That everything is delicious and wonderful. You're unfortunately allergic to a lot of really wonderful stuff too, but I'm so glad that you still have a lot of fun.
But
with what
honestly,
you eat.
I'm only allergic to commercialized things. So with that being said,
Absolutely,
like your
raw
commercialized
dairy,
grains.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have a gluten allergy, so I can't eat a lot of things from stores or whatever. But, I mean, in the foraging world or in, like, the modern culinary world, that's just ancillary little stuff that doesn't matter because there's so much more out there. And sometimes simplistic is better anyway. So, yes, I can't eat, like, a fresh-baked sourdough, which that is disappointing. But I've done some grain-free ones that are pretty amazing. So
I would take backstrap to baguette any fucking day.
yeah, it's
Any
true.
day.
Yes.
It's true.
Backstrap to baguette.
But I love that you put it very simply that at that moment, that thing that you're having is the best thing.
It is.
I was
I
just
mean-
coming back from Southern Ohio, and I got skunked with morels. I was so disappointed. But I found an assload of Spring Beauties, and I dressed that with olive oil, lemon juice, salt, and pepper, and served that to my pals there, like 4 or 5 ounces. So like a lot of fucking Spring Beauties.
Yeah.
And it was delicious, man. It was so good.
Yeah, no, the season's bounty is what's wonderful in that moment.
Yeah.
If you can preserve it and carry it into the next, like I'm not going to lie, even over morels, I still prefer hen of the woods
Hens are my shoe.
on
Yeah.
a backstrap.
Oh, absolutely.
So I take back straps and I put them on like the Traeger smoker grill, and I get a smoke tube on there because they're not going to get enough smoke when it's on high heat and you're actually grilling it. So I do that so you get a lot of smoke flavor in a short amount of time, so it's still nice and medium rare inside.
Stop it right
And you
now.
take that and I heat up and I cook down hen of the woods in the fall with oregano, or actually last time I did bee balm because why not, right?
Fuck yeah.
So I did bee balm and a few other spices and acorn oil and cooked them down in that, and just let it. First, you let them go all the way down in the pan until there's like hardly any moisture left, and then you add the oil in, and then they start soaking up that oil and like melding all the flavors with that, and then you start putting in, and I cook it. It's probably like 3.5, 4 hours. You let it go.
Sure.
And then it's all just kind of cooked down, all the water's out of it. And then you got just the wonderful tasting mushrooms. And I put them in jars and I freeze them. And when I have those back straps and I break them out on the grill,
Yeah.
oh yeah, those go on there.
That's awesome. I was just staring at a couple jars of pickled spruce tips that have been excavated from a deep cabinet that I was realizing that like, oh, I need to use those. And like, so you boil them down. You said you put them in jars and then you freeze them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
Freeze the acorn oil and then,
sure.
yeah. I find that they last longer and the flavor is better. Because sometimes the acorn oil needs to be refrigerated.
Oh, of course.
So you don't want it to go rancid.
Yep.
So that way I can let it last all year long into the next. That way we have it until the next fall where I can get more of them and do the same thing over again.
That sounds freaking delicious.
I want that right now.
I think that's going to bring us to the end of our conversation with the wonderful Luke Oswald. I just wanted to plug that book that we were talking about earlier, The Mushrooms of Illinois and Surrounding States, and that is by Joe McFarland. You were right about that one. And the other author is Gregory M. Mueller.
That's it.
Or Mueller. I don't know. Mueller. A Field to Kitchen Guide. So I have that book too. It is one of the best. It really is awesome. The photos are great. And then the two gentlemen featured as the authors are...
Is that the one with the chanterelle on the cover?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I have that one too.
Very, very well known
And it's
book.
a great beginner book.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is.
It is a
Absolutely.
great beginner book. For somebody who is scared to get started, that is the place to start. But carry it with you. Don't
Absolutely.
leave it at home.
Sure.
Yeah, make it a
Your
backpack
memory
book.
is not that good.
Yeah. So where can people find you on what? Yeah, what? Give us your plugs.
Yeah, you can find me on pretty much all social media channels: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Instagram's kind of my jam. I don't really do the whole other thing that much.
Are you on YouTube?
I am on YouTube, not as active as I should be. I've got a whole lot of content, just not enough time to put it up. But
hear you.
when I do, there's going to be a buttload.
Do you cross-post your podcast on YouTube at all?
I did for a while. Now it doesn't automatically do it, so I don't do it as
Yeah.
much. So, but yeah, I've got like probably like 100 episodes on YouTube. If you want to go check them out, there's some good ones on there. And then I also am on pretty much any app that you listen to a podcast. You can find me Publicly Challenged down there as well.
Publicly challenged, all one word? Publicly underscore challenged?
Publicly Challenged is 2 words. If it's the podcast itself, it's Publicly Challenged Podcast. And then pretty much all other social channels is Publicly underscore Challenged.
Cool.
Yeah.
Man. Well, it's been awesome having a chat with you. I hope a lot of people check you out. Your show and you as a person are highly underrated. And
Yeah, your T-shirt designs are great. Just look I was just on Instagram. Like, they're so good. Stringer's full.
yes.
It's so good. Dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn it.
So,
Thank you.
Luke's a real one. Check him out. Thanks for hanging out today, man. Thanks for coming out to meet
Thanks
us.
for having me on. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Good. I'm glad you liked it. We'll see you around.